That's another tough question. You guys are making reproductions of vehicles that are 30 years old.
Yeah.
You just did the Sky Striker. How many times have you done that? I've been out of the toy business for a while now. Could be part of the reason why the toy industry is where it is right now. Because they don't have people who understand toys. I get complaints from people like, well, why did you do all these Neon Joes and with these oversized weapons? Well, we did them because they shot things. Coca-Cola. What do they know about toys? Give me a toy, a figure, that does something. That's just one simple example of how to make a toy great again.
Kirk was the former vice president of Boys Toys marketing at Hasbro and the mastermind behind the relaunch of G.I. Joe, a real American hero in the 1980s. Kirk played a major role in turning G.I. Joe into a pop culture phenomenon.
Leading up to this, like the one thing I wanted to ask you was, where do you see the toy industry, say, in 5-10 years? It's like you've been in the toy industry forever. You're still teaching courses. Like, you're seeing it now, you know, like how deep are you keeping track of like what's happening in the toy industry, and like where do you see it kind of evolving from here?
That's a really good question. And you start off with a tough one. Thanks. The toy business is going to, has constantly evolved, obviously, and it's going to continue to evolve. Where do I see it in 5 years? Probably where it is right now. I mean, kids are always going to want toys.
Yeah.
The growth, I think where we're going to see the growth, however, is where this whole new opportunity called Kidult.
The collectors, the adult
You're a big part of that. Your company's a big part of that. I think we're going to see more of that. There's still such a three-dimensional aspect to a toy that I think still intrigues a kid.
Yeah.
And people who keep claiming that, kids don't play with toys anymore, give them the right toy and they'll play with it.
Sure.
Kind of a comment from toy industry professionals that kids don't play with toys anymore. I say, baloney. Give them a toy that will intrigue them, and they will keep playing with toys. And that goes for all toys. Just because a kid grows out of preschool toys, mm-hmm. because that's where I think the market is right now, obviously, doesn't mean that you can't keep them into toys until they're 12.
Yeah.
You just got to give them something that's going to intrigue them. And again, that whole opportunity to grow the business with adults is fascinating to me.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the war room. I wanted this to be Action Force centric. I wanted everything about the brand to be in here.
Okay.
So it's cool because then I get to see the depth of the line.
Yep.
It's like sometimes it takes me by surprise because I'm like, well, Series 1 started here. And this was the first ever one. And then we went down to Series 2. And then a couple of other supplemental series, and Series 3, and then Series 4, and then Series 5. And then over there we got new stuff. And then it's like, did the vehicle. It's like, holy crap, like a vehicle?
That's what a lot of the other companies are missing, is the whole idea of doing a vehicle.
Well, I think it's the risk factor. It's like I was the most nervous I've ever been doing that.
Yeah.
And it was such a big undertaking. You're talking, $700,000 in tooling. Yeah.
Sure. The problem I have with what Hasbro has done in the past with their vehicles is, and I've said this to them at conventions, is you guys are making reproductions of vehicles that are 30 years old.
Yeah.
You just did the Sky Striker. How many times have you done that? And that's a plane that's not even in the inventory anymore of the military, right? But, because people remember the Sky Striker from years ago, we got to give them a new Sky Striker. And then you did it single seat, not two-seater.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a new vehicle. Give me a new jet, you know?
Well, that's right. So that's based off a real-world vehicle.
Right, I know.
Rizvani. So it's like, I saw it in a movie. I said, I partnered with them. They love the idea.
Yeah.
So it's like, cool. Give me something fresh.
There's a new company that I bought a few products from called, I think it's called Funhole. And they make construction toys.
Okay.
I've already bought 3, okay? And they just came out with a new one, the Chuck Wagon.
Okay.
It's a world of urban scenes. So they've got a record store.
Okay.
Classic downtown record store. They've got steampunk as a category. phenomenal kind of looking stuff with the little
I was
mini,
gonna say they have
little
minifigures?
minifigures, little minifigures. They haven't done military yet, but
Okay.
I got to believe that's around the corner. And it's just, so where's the industry going? I think they're gonna. If you give a young kids something really truly playful, they'll play. I see it maybe going more towards the adult collector now.
I kind of joke with the adult collectors. I say, you guys have to remember, there's more than just adult collectibles. Like, go down the other aisles at Target, see what's out there. Because this stuff, yes, an adult collector has it, and it's a nostalgia thing that is coveted. But they weren't making it for adult collectors. They were making this stuff for kids.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to kind of remember. Like, it all started with kids.
The kid-adult thing, I mean, obviously my business kind of runs on that.
Yeah.
It's like I would love for it to get to lunchboxes and backpacks, like young kids, maybe. But what scares me about the kid-adult collector thing is I look at it as like, it's like a wave and you're surfing, and eventually the wave's going to crash. The wave can't go forever. So it's like, guys like me grew up on the stuff you produced then. It's like, so we were the kids, 80s, 90s, that were buying the toys, and then like we just kept it going.
Yeah.
But when I'm 50 or 55, am I still going to be buying collector toy products? And if I'm not, is there a generation behind me that is the next wave? Like, is there going to be another, like the 20-year-olds now, are they going to get into adult collecting? And that's always been my biggest question, is my generation, guys in their, mid 30s to late 40s, that section.
Yeah.
When they get too old, what is going to happen? Is it a trend? And I know the toy industry is full of trends, but yeah, will that keep going? So I think, to me, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to ride the wave as long as possible. But, kids are always going to be needed. I mean, like you said, kids will always play with a toy. This morning, my son and my daughter, they're up. I'm trying to get their lunches ready for school. And my son has a Switch. We got YouTube. He wasn't playing any, but out of nowhere, he just started playing with his Beyblades this morning. And then my daughter started playing, and they were battling for 2 hours this morning.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's awesome. And it's like, yeah, they play with toys. And, he's got a ton of my Action Force stuff, but he likes action figures. They're always going to play with stuff. So yeah, the digital aspect, the YouTubes, the Switches, is always going to get in, but there's always going to be breaks from that. So they're not going to be on it 24 hours a day. They're always going to need toys. So, I'm glad to hear you say that not much will change. But yes, seeing the adult collector, like when I was at Hasbro, it was rising.
Yeah.
And I thought it was...
That just happens, I think, to be the growth area right now. But I don't think that, the future has got to be, how do you get kids back into toys?
Exactly.
Two personal experiences in the last month. So my son just got married, and he has a little nephew. Little nephew goes to school, and he goes to a religious school, a Jewish religious school. And he gets to play the part, he's 5, I think. He gets to play the part of Moses in this little school play.
Uh-huh.
So years ago, I created, with Don Levine, we both created a series of toys called Almighty Heroes, sold in religious specialty shops and gift shops, complete with a book that I wrote. And it was Moses, Noah, David, had Ron Rudat designed the characters for us, all designed for preschoolers. So on Easter, a week before Easter, we go up to visit my son and his wife, and the family comes over, and little Caleb comes over. And I give him, as a gift, in a package, Moses with the little book, The Story of Moses. That kid hasn't stopped playing with that figure, okay? My daughter-in-law sends me a picture of him eating breakfast with Moses next to him at the kitchen table, okay? 5 years old. The toy does nothing. It's a little simple 5-point articulated figure, big chunky feet. But he takes it with him everywhere, okay? Why did that attract his, because he looks, I guess, at himself as, hey, that's me.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Easter Sunday, my great nephews and nieces come over for Easter with the families. And my wife always puts together a little Easter basket for the kids. So I said, she goes, where can we get get them a bunch of stuff? I said, go to Dollar Tree. You know, they're little, they're young, they're 4 and 5 years old. Go to Dollar Tree. Get them a bunch of stuff. So for the boys, we get a wiffle bat and ball. And we included in there a little action figure. I don't even know what Dollar Tree calls it, but they're military figures.
The Final Faction.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
So we give it to my nephews, great nephews. The youngest, Avi, opens the Easter basket and sees the figure. Now, this is a kid who's hooked on Spidey TV, Spider-Man now, okay? Rescue Heroes. So all the popular characters.
Yeah.
He takes out the figure and he looks at it and he goes, his eyes brighten. And he comes running over to me and he goes, I love it. This is my favorite toy. Doesn't even know what it is. Okay? He goes to me, what's his name? I said, Sergeant Stryker. That's his name. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just gave the thing a name. That kid played with that all day long. Came with, you know, he's articulated, came with 3 different, like a backpack and 2 different weapons. He lost one of the weapons. He's going crazy looking for it before they're going home. He finally finds it, okay? So I said to myself, here's a toy, a $1.25 toy. Dollar Tree knocked off the whole G.I. Joe concept. Okay, good guy, bad guy, backstory. You could get a comic book for it a couple of years ago. I bought the comic book that you bought at Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
Okay, and they built their own little intellectual property. And here's a kid who got so excited by it because he's never seen a toy soldier for a little kid. Opportunity lost, right? There's an opportunity for the big guys to reconsider, but no, nobody plays with war toys anymore.
And that's that was the thing. It's like, when I was on the Joe brand, it's like, we were marketing towards the adult collector. It's like, where's the kid? Even with the classified line, the height is
if
like,
you don't get the kid, you're not going to have an adult line
exactly
very much longer.
Exactly.
So that's the fly in the ointment that nobody wants to talk about, right? Yeah. The elephant in the room. You got to figure out a way to get a kid to want to buy your toys.
Yeah. The cool thing is like with my line, I meet, guys my age or a little older with kids, and they're like, I got my son into Action Force like the way I had with G.I. Joe, so this is like a shared experience, which is good, but you still need to get the kids to see this stuff.
Exactly.
And, I wonder, like, and I'm sure you probably touch on this, in your marketing classes, which I want to get into in a second, but I see my son, my daughter, they don't watch a lot of like shows, they watch YouTube. And I'm like, why do you guys want to see other kids playing with stuff? I'm like, we just like it.
I know that's a phenomenon I can't figure out.
Yeah, but I pay for the premium YouTube, so there's no commercials. So I'm like, they're not getting the commercials, seeing the new stuff like we got as kids,
Yep.
But like kind of segueing into your, because you teach your marketing courses, how much did those marketing courses evolve over time just based on trends and the way everything, like I'm sure there's a lot of basic stuff that always stayed the same, but then did you feel like a lot changed over time?
Yeah, I've been teaching marketing now for 15 years. And what I teach is introduction to marketing, which is, principles of marketing. That's what I teach. And it's a required course of all business students at Providence College. So I don't just get marketing students. In fact, most of my time, I've taught students, and the students in my class are accounting, finance, and management majors with 1 or 2 marketing majors. So my focus is on teaching them is on how marketing relates to the rest of a company, to the entire business. Okay, the adversarial relationship you have with, in my case, it was always with finance. Yeah. Okay, because they want to hold you back, right? They want to keep control of the dollars that you, as a marketing person, want to spend.
Of course,
which is natural, right? That's what marketing is. How do you get people to buy your product? You got to let the world know you make a product.
Yeah.
So that's advertising, that's promotion, that's over. You asked how things have evolved. Well, over time, I've had to now incorporate social media into my marketing classes. I have to incorporate the influencers into my marketing courses. Okay, so what started out as 15 years ago as old school marketing, the kind of marketing I learned, pretty quickly evolved into, hey, you better start adding digital marketing, social media marketing, the power of social media, the influence of influencers.
Yep.
I mean, that's how everything has evolved over time, over the last few years.
Yeah, that, I've tried, I hired a firm to help Google ads and this and that. And I felt like they weren't doing nearly as much as what I was doing on social media. It's like, I built the line, but it's very organic social media based.
Yeah.
Because all you got to do is like, you put a post out there, all of a sudden, I don't look at like, how many likes my post is getting. I look at how many times it's shared. Because they're the ones sharing it to another site.
That's right.
And then they're sharing it and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I just have to throw this little bit out there and the flower just bloomed.
Yep.
It's like black-eyed Susans. They just multiply and it goes. And that's like, when I tried to tell that firm, because I stopped working for the firm, like, oh, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, look, my social media does more than what I was paying you guys to do. And social media just reaches so many people. But now there's so many platforms. It's like, all right, I was doing Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
Now it's like, I got the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And now someone's like, well, you got to get on TikTok because TikTok has the 20-somethings. Because now it's like, they say that Facebook is for the older generation, and then Instagram was like for the 30-somethings, and now TikTok is for the 20-somethings.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, if I start getting TikTok, I got to learn that. And then now I got 4 social media platforms. Well, then what's the next thing after
That's
TikTok?
the thing. You got to look what's coming after TikTok.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not going to be TikTok forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's coming in? And it may not be TikTok legally.
Exactly.
So we don't even know about that yet.
Yeah.
So you gotta constantly stay on top of
Yep.
this.
And it's like, are the Facebook and Instagrams, as they're getting phased out, are they going to try to like hold on and try to revamp themselves? Like, I don't know if you remember, there was Matt. What was the pre-Facebook thing called?
MySpace.
You had MySpace, and it's like MySpace and Facebook were literally the same thing, but Facebook had inclusivity because it was college kids.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was going to art school, not college. So I couldn't be on Facebook. And I was like, I don't want to be on Facebook. And I was very against it. And then I was on MySpace. And then MySpace went away, and then Facebook got popular. And it's like, okay, but is Facebook going to revamp itself? Is Instagram going to revamp itself? Or are they just going to go away and then something new is going to take its place?
Yep.
What I find crazy is YouTube, like, it's only been YouTube, the video site. Now, TikTok, from what I understand, is videos. But it's still not, YouTube is still YouTube.
Yeah.
And, and even YouTube has evolved. Like my kids watch shows and they watch these kids playing with stuff. But then all of a sudden those kids are like, oh, we've been sponsored by Zuru thanks for the product. So it's like, oh, they got smart. And it's like, I just saw, do you know Mr. Beast? He's a YouTuber. He's got like hundreds of millions of followers and he blows stuff up and he does crazy games and he gives away tons of money.
Okay.
But all of a sudden, like, I think Moose or someone started working with him. Like, I finally, like, I can't believe how long it took them to work with him. It's like, you got to latch onto the social media people with the hundreds of millions of views. Like, that's just advertising to a huge platform of just, kids and, young adults.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy, but I'm like,
well, that's the new world we're living in right now.
It is,
and
it's like, is that going to keep going, or is,
I don't know. I was telling Mark, I have a daughter-in-law who built a business. Started out as a hobby of designing charm necklaces that she was making and selling one at a time, and in a couple of months, saw her business skyrocket because of an influencer who happened to get her necklace and wore it and bragged about it on her influencer channel or whatever on TikTok.
Yep.
And my daughter-in-law's business has exploded, all because of that one influencer.
That was Squishmallows.
Yeah.
I think it might have been like Kim Kardashian. Like, yeah, they did You know, the company, I think it was Kelly Toys, was doing the Squishmallows before Jazzwares got them. But I think Kim Kardashian, like, got a Squishmallow and had a post on it with her daughter, and all of a sudden, where can I get this? Kim Kardashian has it. And it's like, then it caused Kelly Toy to sell the Jazzwares, and now, you know, I think, you know, Squishmallows is just $1 billion brand. It's like, well, because like this celebrity posted, and it's like, that celebrity didn't get any money. They just posted organically. It just happened. You know, Matt was telling me a story about someone with a girl wearing shorts, and all of a sudden these shorts, she did this TikTok video and it blew up. And, you know, my wife, she works out like religiously, does all the CrossFit and stuff. And she found this woman that does these shorts and sports bras. And I'm like, you buy so much from her, you need to start your own like channel and start plugging her stuff, and then maybe you get the stuff for free. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's all you got to do is you got to get that one influencer. What is this? What is this cool thing? Hey guys, look at this thing I found. And then it just, hey, I want that. It's really interesting. And I see, you know, the toy industry has a ton of influencers and stuff, but we're just not there yet as like a Kim Kardashian. Like
right.
Some of those we need to like I would love to get, you know, Action Force in the hands of like not Kim Kardashian, but to like that level. Like,
yeah, you got to figure that out.
You know?
That's what you got to figure out. You know, and the thing is, influencers, you know, we think of that as something new, but influencers have been around a long time.
Sure.
You know, I remember the story of the teddy bear. And the teddy bear, believe it or not, got created because of a story about Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was out on a hunting trip as a young man in Montana, maybe. And he, quote, saved the life of a bear cub. Okay? So, a toy company in New York City hears that story or reads that story, and they make a plush toy. There were no teddy bears before the teddy bear. It got named the teddy bear because of Teddy Roosevelt. So they make this plush teddy bear cub, send it to Teddy Roosevelt, who was president at the time, and a story runs on Teddy Roosevelt holding up this little teddy bear. And it's called a teddy bear. Boom.
Every kid has one.
Every kid has one now. Since 1902, 1903. That's a crazy story, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a thought and I lost it because I was like, that's such a fascinating story. Because
I'm filled with knowledge like this.
Yeah, like I didn't, you know, because and that's like we were talking earlier about like the knowledge that the younger generation doesn't find out, and it's like that's awesome. I love learning new things. Like that's cool. But now it's like, well, how do I use that? How can you do something with that? But I mean. I think accessibility is the big part, whereas there's so much out there. I think the accessibility of people is a lot harder. Like I know when, you know, I was trying to start pitching Action Forces like an animated series, just trying to get to the people. Like, yeah, you have Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and you pounding the pavement. It reminded me of like when I was trying to break in the comics industry. You're like pushing and pushing and pushing. It's like, but the accessibility, it's like these people are getting flooded with tons of messages on a daily basis. It's like, how does yours find its way to the top?
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is what I find to be the hardest part as with marketing, is getting to the people, getting to that Walmart buyer. And I look at LinkedIn and how that site evolved like everything else. Like LinkedIn was supposed to be just for work and careers and getting to that. So it wasn't social media.
Right.
It was very, work-based. But now even that, it's like, all right, well, I was like, oh, I sent this person a message and they didn't read it. And it's been 3 months, or they read it and they never got back to me. It's like, how do I get to these people? And you see them, they're there, the Walmart, the Target buyer are there. I know their names and stuff, but it's like, I need to get to you.
Right.
That's definitely the hardest part now. And it's like, I know you could still go to Toy Fair and stuff, but even that, it's like, well, you set up a meeting to do this. And it's like, no, I don't have a meeting, but can I just have 5 minutes with this person? So, I've sent boxes of product out, just hoping someone at this company will get it and see it and like it. And, so, but
Well, exactly. I mean, I'll give you another influencer,
Okay.
historical influencer. All right, happens to be another president. Okay, and you say to yourself, how could you do something similar? I don't know. Okay, but you're familiar with Jelly Belly jelly beans?
Oh yeah.
You know how Jelly Belly jelly beans became so popular? Ronald Reagan.
Oh, that's right. He was a big candy guy, wasn't he?
Yeah. Ronald Reagan, when he was governor of California, a new company started in California called Jelly Bellies. They gave him a sample to sit on his desk of a Jelly Belly candy jar filled with Jelly Bellies. They just sent it to him, okay? Saying, we're a new company in California, but we hope you like these. Mm-hmm. He fell in love with Jelly Bellies. When he became president, he had a Jelly Belly jar on his desk, on the Resolute desk.
Resolute desk.
He had, as gifts for every person who visited the White House, a bag, presidential seal, Jelly Belly jelly beans.
That's cool.
Okay? Influencer, before the influencers got involved. So you just got to pick the right person, okay? You got to figure out, okay, well, is there an affinity with this person who for my kind of product? Which, let's face it, is controversial, Bobby.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
You know, you're not making teddy bears.
I'm not making teddy bears.
But if you find that right person and you get them to then post something, hey, look what I got. This is great. My kids love it, blah, blah, blah. Who knows where it can go?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, look at, what is it, the Stanley Cups?
Yeah.
Look at, those have been around forever. And all of a sudden, I'm like, why did they
So they made them in a different color. They made them in fashion colors, and all of a sudden they became like the hottest thing, right?
But again, it's trendy stuff. You know, look at Rhode Island brand, Alex and Ani. You know, look at how trendy those were. And now it's like, no one wears Alex and Ani anymore. It's like, that's the problem with trends is, you get it.
Well,
if you get it hot, you got to keep it hot.
That's the nature of the toy business, right? It was often told to me that it was a fad business. And I always thought of a fad as like a 30-day wonder, you know?
Yeah.
But no, it's much longer than that, but it's a fad. And you got to figure out, where is the marketplace moving next?
Yep. Yeah, that we did a video, one of the last times he was up, that we put out. I called it What's Old is New. Mm-hmm. And seeing like, that, you know, when I was at Hasbro, it's like, all right, what's the new innovation? What's the new innovation? And then you give them all this new innovation, and they're like, but the cost is too high. Let's go back to what we know. Let's go Titan Hero and this and that. And you're just like, okay, well, why did I give you all this cool innovation? And then I see it even now. Like, we did a video that, was it Mattel did the Batman Forever figures? Yeah, Mattel put out these Batman Forever figures, the Val Kilmer movie from 1996 or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Mattel had done a line, or Kenner did a line. Kenner did the original line. Well, obviously Kenner and Mattel, like Kenner was acquired by Hasbro, so the molds don't exist. Mattel ends up celebrating, I think, the 30th anniversary of it, and they put out the same figures that Mattel did.
That Kenner did.
Or Kenner did, sorry.
Yeah.
But they retooled them. Because I bought some of the original Kenner ones, and then I bought the
tooling doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, but it's like, instead of like tooling new innovative stuff, they tooled a 30-year-old product just to put it out for a 30th anniversary of a line they didn't even do. And I was like, I was so baffled. I'm like, because I know how much tooling dollars.
Yeah.
I'm like, you tooled this new. And I just like, I did the video because I was like, why? Like, why would they do this? Like, it's one of the lesser Batman movies, but it was just interesting. And even Hasbro, they're going back to, they did a brand that I worked on, and then it failed and it went away. And now they're doing another iteration. They're calling it something different, but it's something new. You know, the Bend and Flex. It's like they were doing bendy figures forever. And all of a sudden, what is it? Well, how can we bring that back? And when I was there, you were familiar with the Titan Hero, the 12-inch ones? Mm-hmm. Because those, the profit margin was so good on them. And it started out as a weird exercise of, how could we do figures for Latin America? Because they're PDQ trays, you couldn't have something in an open box because the stores are dirty and dusty and some were outdoors and this and that. So they created Titan Hero. But all of a sudden, the US was like, hey, we want that too. I was like, oh, we could sell millions of units. And all of a sudden, Titan Hero took off. But then prices increase, so your dollar whatever figure that you sell for 10 is no longer a dollar something and start to creep up. So every year it was like, what's the new version of Titan Hero? And they tried like going smaller or going bigger, or doing this or doing that. And now it's like, you know, I've been out of Hasbro 6 or 7 years now, and I look and they're still doing Titan Hero. So it's like they're still going back to the well. And it's like, there's always going to be things that work or things you go back to. Look, you know, they start doing O-ring figures again.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. You know, that's for the adult collector. It's nostalgia based. But seeing that, hey, that trend worked for this era, could it work for this new generation? And it's always interesting to see that. You know, because when I go to Target, I don't just look at the collector product. I go to every toy aisle.
Sure. I do the same.
Yeah.
I want to see what's going on.
You know, the interesting thing that I saw explode over the years is the blind box. You know, first they had the mini, the Shopkins, and now it's like you go down, then it was mini brands, and now it's like that even exploded. And now they do the mini brands that it's a create thing. It comes with resin, so you can like create like this thing. And I'm just like, this is wild. Like, you know, I love the idea of blind box, something that originated in Asia.
Yeah.
You know, and when I went over to China last year for the first time, and you go into these stores and they have like the 50-cent egg machines, and it's all blind box stuff. And it's like that market is huge over there. But now it's like where Toys R Us used to have the whole section of Lego, Target has the whole aisle of blind bag. And I'm like, that's wild.
Yes.
They used to be little end caps, and now it's a whole aisle because there's other companies. Every company's doing one. It's not just like Zuru or you know, Moose or anything like that. And you know, the creative play, which is, like I said, they went from doing the blind bag of collectibles to doing the blind bag like, it's like mini brands did cakes, and how do you make the resin cake with the icing and stuff dripping off of it? And it's like, wow, okay, so it's not just, oh, what's the rare one I got? It's let me create this. And you know Moose Toys?
Yeah.
One of my favorite toy companies. I love their offering of getting the thing out of the mystery box and the goo or the sand, you know, that they use a lot of kinetic sand and goo and stuff. And I'm like, my son loves those things, and I love playing with it. It's like different levels of, you break this open, you do this, and you do this, and then you do this, and then it reveals what it is. It's like, all right, well, that's fun, but it's also a one-time use. It's like, you do it, but then how do you keep them engaged to what you got out of it?
Exactly. You know? The surprise has got to be something worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think some of these companies are losing that battle. It's like, we got them for 10 minutes, but now my son has a whole bin full of the Treasure X guys. He doesn't play with them because he got them out of the sand.
Yeah.
What do you do? Yeah. I have an idea I'm working on. I'll show you once we're off camera, a blind box thing that I'm working on. I want to get your take on it.
Okay,
but
sure.
I think there's something there. But I think there's something there not just for kids. I think adults as well. You know, because I see my wife, she gets into some of this stuff too. I'm like, look, finally you're coming to collect.
They sent me that as a sample. I said, oh. So that's why I love the design house I work with.
Yeah.
They're doing stuff on their own and coming to me and saying, hey, what do you think of this?
What do you think of this? So they're truly partners then.
Do you think there's like a glaring omission in the toy industry right now as far as something they're missing that's so obvious?
That's another tough question because I've been out of the toy business for a while now. Even though my partners and I continually look to invent ideas, we haven't done anything in the last 3 years really that, you know, we wanted to show anyone. We look into other categories now, but glaring omission. I guess it'll come back to the advice that I went to Hasbro one time with when I was still working on G.I. Joe, which was, what does the toy do? It's a simple question. What does it do? And if all it does is look nice, or it's posable, or it rolls, and it has an opening hatch, That's not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think a glaring omission in the toy business is, give me toys. Give me something that does something.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. Go back to the well, like we talked earlier. Go back to the well of old toys. Go back to the 50s and the 60s, okay? The era when I was growing up. And you say to yourself, okay, what were the toys that fascinated me? That I played with for hours. I literally mean hours, okay? And figure out a way of making that more modern. And nobody does that. Like, a toy I spent hours playing with in the summertime were water rockets.
Yeah.
Okay? My grandfather and grandmother lived across the street from us. And they had a big yard filled with fruit trees, so it was nice and cool in the summer, okay? So it was on a real hot day, if we weren't playing baseball, okay, and if I was just alone or I had one or two friends over, we'd go over to my grandfather's yard and we would play with water rockets. Simple Parks plastic water rockets. Find a way to make that different, new, exciting, okay? That's just one simple example of how to make a toy great again, I guess, is just take a look at a line of toys and figure out, like, I'm disappointed in action figures because with the exception of, and even I don't even see it out of them anymore, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't even see the toy features in their figures that they used to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a toy, a figure that does something. I get complaints from people like, well, why did you do all these Neon Joes and with these oversized weapons? Well, we did them because they shot things. And you can't do a mini gun because it becomes a choking hazard.
Yep.
So you had to make a big gun that shot a big projectile. But man, did that inject a new enthusiasm for the line. I mean, we doubled sales in a year because we added toy features to what we did. Take vehicles that do things. Don't just give me a model kit in a box. That's great for the kidult.
Yeah.
All right, but for the kid, it's got to do something. So give me a toy that does something. I told you earlier, my favorite toy in the summer was a Parks plastic water rocket.
Yep.
How the heck do I even remember the name Parks Plastic? Right? How many people would even remember that?
Yeah.
It was a stupid little red one-piece or two-piece injection molded rocket that you pumped up with air, right? You filled it with water, pumped it up with air, and you go up 50 or 60 feet in the air, right? Later on, okay, if I was really good and I went shopping with my mom or dad, they got me the Parks plastic rocket that had the mercury capsule on it, okay? That would detach as it was falling back and had a parachute pop out. Oh, yeah, if you had one of those, man, you were king in the neighborhood.
The battle wagon. One of my favorite all-time vehicles. I think shot
was
a
awesome.
Gatling gun that shot missiles.
Awesome
Right.
toy. Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, what I like, touching on the Joe brand is, you have the guys that were there for the 82 line, and they're the purists. So by 87, they were like, crystal ball, nah, But I loved it because I came in like 85. I was born in 82, so it's like 85 I started having them as a little kid.
Yeah.
But I got the 80s and the 90s. People talk about, I'm an 80s child. Yeah, you had great stuff, but I had 80s and 90s. Batman animated series. Ninja Turtles were going into the 90s as well. Exo Squad.
Yeah.
So to me, I loved the Neon Joes, because it was cool. It was fresh. It was something different.
Something different.
I didn't, I looked at the straight, OD green guys at flea markets. I'm like, no, I'd rather the neon blue snake guys over here, But again, like things like the battle wagon, like firing projectiles was so cool, and I think, that's just a small thing is like Kenner lost it because what was it? Not Buck Rogers or something where the kid choked on the missile, so the Boba Fett didn't have the missile anymore. So they stopped doing firing missiles for years, but then you guys were like, let's do firing missiles. Sure.
All you had to do was figure out a way to make it bigger.
Yeah, just make it bigger.
Just make them bigger.
Yeah.
So they're not a choking hazard.
One of the best things I ever got from school was the little test tube for the choking hazard.
Yep.
It's like, does it stick out of it? Yeah. All right, you're good.
You're good.
You're good.
Yep.
You know, but again, the new generation, they don't know what a choke tube is. It's like, what's that?
Yeah.
But, you know, I worry about that with action force. I'm like, well, I gotta have it age graded for a certain age, but it's adult collector stuff. But I would love to do firing missiles. It's just fun.
Yeah.
You know, I did glow in the dark for a figure, and I'm like, this is fun.
Exactly.
But, you know, where's the fun?
It gives you something to talk about.
Yeah.
And that one thing can maybe bring other people attention to the rest of the line.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to do what I can. Like my friend calls it like the Holy Trinity: back metal, glow in the dark, and was it smelling plastics? Yeah, or flocking, because I experimented with looking into doing flocking.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like, we did back metal, we got glow in the dark, but yeah, now I got the factory working on some flocking.
Oh, cool.
You know, because I'm like, it'd be fun. Guy with a beard and flocked hair. It's like, you know, the technology's there to do it. So, shoot, He-Man was doing it on Moss Man. What's the fun factor? Because again, yes, my stuff, it sits on a shelf, it looks pretty, but can it look good sitting on the shelf when it glows in the dark or something like that? So, you know, when I did the glow in the dark figure, I had people saying like, I don't know what you put in there, but it's like a night light. It's so bright. So like I shut my light off in my room and the things, I'm like, oh, cool. You know, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because, yeah, it's like, if you're going to do a gimmick, is the gimmick fun?
Well, you can tell you've got a passion for this.
Hey,
that's what it takes.
You have to. I mean, how do you do stuff without having a passion for it?
Exactly.
You know?
And I think that's what's missing in the toy business, too, is that, you know, if you look at the history of the toy business, it started with people like Louis Marks of Marks Toys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Louis Marks was the innovator in toys. I mean, he's made model trains, right? Electric trains. He made tin toys. I mean, he just had the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up making action figures with, you know, Johnny West, Sergeant Stoney. I mean, he just had his company made everything.
Yeah.
They were the largest toy company in the world at one time. Bigger than Mattel, bigger than Hasbro at one time, right? As the company grows and as you start bringing in people who don't feel toys. See, Louis Marks grew up in the toy business, right? Stephen Hassenfeld grew up in the toy business, right? His father was an innovator in plastics, okay? One of the first companies, Hasbro, to get involved in plastic molding. Ruth Handler and her husband at Mattel, right?
For Barbie.
These were people who ran the company with a hands-on approach. As we move away from that, and we start bringing in people from consumer packaged goods, right? Procter & Gamble, Heinz Ketchup, Lay's Potato Chips, Coca-Cola. What do they know about toys, right? You need merchants. You need people. And that's a problem. That became a problem at the retailer. Okay? When I was selling toys at Hasbro, you know, working with our sales force, we were dealing with buyers who loved toys.
Yep.
And they stayed in that job for years. Okay? They weren't there for 6 months and toys was their training ground. Then they got moved over to video games, or they got moved over to electronics, or they got moved over to buying health and beauty aids, right? No, they were there because they loved buying toys, and they became experts at it. And we would seek their advice, get their counsel on what we were trying to introduce, right? And that doesn't exist anymore. So that could be part of the reason why the toy industry is where it is right now, because they don't have people who understand toys. I remember interviewing people for jobs as product managers. And you know how when you go on a job interview, there's always a trick question?
Yeah.
I had a very simple trick question. And I can't tell you how many people couldn't answer it. Simple question was, what was your favorite toy as a kid?
That trip people up?
It would trip people up. I had people telling me they'd sit there for like 20, 30 seconds thinking. And then someone would say, crayons. A ball. Are you kidding me? You can't remember what your favorite toy was in 1975?
Yeah.
You can't tell me that it was $6 Million Man? You can't tell me that it was Star Wars
Yep.
a few years later.
Yep.
If you couldn't tell me the name brand of something, it was like, I got to think twice before I'm going to hire this person.
Sure.
And I think too many people in the toy business forgot all that.
They did.
Because I don't think that people in the toy business any longer are toy people.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I could tell the difference, like when I got to Hasbro, and there were guys that were industrial designers, came from like, I don't know, the strict industrial design schools. I came from FIT. It's a toy degree.
Right. Yeah.
So when you'd see them, they were never in Fun Lab, the industrial designers. And I was in Fun Lab all the time. It's like I was doing a new line. I wanted to see what kids thought of it. It's like, oh, can they do it? I was working on Spider-Man. I was like doing these stretchy webs. I said, well, I can do it, but can kids do it? And at the time, I didn't have kids yet.
Right.
So we went to, and I think we couldn't get a Fun Lab, but we went to a preschool, like right down the street. And I sat with those kids for like 3 hours, just like watching every single kid do it. Like, okay, well, what percentage can do it? And what can't do it? What are they having trouble with? What dexterity do they have? And I think the younger generation coming in now, I don't think that's on their radar. And I'm like, how do we get that back? Because, yeah, the kids aren't playing with toys, but I think it's not just the kids not playing with toys, but it's the people making the toys aren't realizing that they're making it for kids. And you got to play with kids. And you got to see them do it.
Yeah, because there's nothing more frustrating to a kid is if they can't do what they see in the commercial or on the package, or that their mother or father did that they can't replicate because they don't have the dexterity or the strength.
I didn't like Transformers as a kid because we got like hand-me-down Transformers with no instructions. And I was like, well, I can't transform this.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I play with G.I. Joes or He-Man or Thundercats. But yeah, a kid loses interest really fast. I see it with my kids. I see it with other kids. So yeah, like make it easy, make it simple. What's that saying? Make it simple, stupid.
Yep.
But make it simple, but make it impactful. And that's that. Where's that sweet spot?
Yep.
I'd like to see, the younger generation. I don't see the kids coming out of the industrial design schools or FIT anymore, but I'd like to see how those programs are changing, and there's still people there like pushing stuff like that. Because like I was telling you, I was a sponge, man. I wanted to know it all. I wanted to know how everything worked. And I don't think, a 20-something-year-old kid coming out of an industrial design school or even FIT are thinking like how double injection molded, pinless joints work. What a choke tube is. I don't know. But I hope it's not lost. I hope there's still people out there that want to learn, because again, it's like you don't want it to be like just a lost art, Sanskrit,
Yeah. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
I hope. Well, I was asking my son was like, Dad, look, I'm learning cursive. I said, oh, they're teaching you cursive. And I was like shocked by it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I thought that would be something that just went away.
Right.
And because kids are on their phone typing or on computers or this or that. It's like, we learned cursive. And then when I went to comic book school, I write in all caps because when I went to comic book school, that's how you did the word balloon.
Yeah.
So it just stuck with me. But when he told me he learned how to write in script, I was like, let me see if I remember how to write script. It took a second, but I had
the muscle memory comes back, right?
Yeah. But again, lost arts. And that's, I'm a big advocate of making sure stuff that you, Ron, the guys, the Kirk Heinmans, those guys, their knowledge that you guys developed and learned and evolved, like that can't get lost.
Yeah.
Can't.
Yeah.
So you just have to make sure there's other sponges out there that want to soak it up.
Toy Wars. I tell people, everyone at FIT, I say, go read this book.
Yep.
I had heard about the book and I got it and I read it like once a year for like 4 years. And you'll like what I got in here.
Oh, yeah. I've got one of those still. Yep.
Kirk, because they talked about this pin in the book.
Yep.
And Kirk Heinman's in the book. And I went, and his office was next to mine when I started there.
Okay.
So I said, Kirk, did they really have these pins? And he goes, oh, yeah. Yeah. He goes, I think I have one somewhere. And literally the next morning, he got there way ahead of me. And this was sitting on my desk.
On your desk.
And I said, Kirk, I can't take, this is a piece of history. He goes, no.
It's yours.
It's yours. So this is
that.
you know, and it's like something as stupid as a pin that was made. It's like, this is history. This is as much history as, you know, a Star Wars figure or G.I. Joe. Or like, this is, even though this wasn't a product, this is toy history.
Yeah.
And I think that gets lost.
I'd say, what advice would you give to, you know, the new generation? But it seems like that's kind of what you would offer them up.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, listen to this video and watch this video, and you'll learn.
Yeah, take it from a guy who's been around and has a ton of knowledge. You know, I know that, you know, people love coming to see at shows and stuff. If I would say, guys, if you come see him at a show, get him inside your law file card, but also pick his brain. You know, pick his
Dallas
brain
is going to be a great show.
I can't wait.
We've got some panels that are going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go. I had a great time last year. Last year was my first time there, and I'm just happy I got invited back. Dallas happens to be one of my favorite cities.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that whole area, and so I just think it's going to be a fun show. I mean, we're going to do a panel on marketing's involvement with the product development process.
That got announced. Yeah.
We're going to do a panel. I'm doing a panel with Carson Metaxas on commercial shoots.
Cool.
In the whole commercial
Yeah.
visual area of G.I. Joe. So yeah, it's going to be a fun show. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I liked Dallas last year, so I was glad that we can make it work again this year. What is cool for me is that, like, when you guys are there, like Dave Kunitz, it's like Dave was running Boys when my first internship in 2010. Okay. So like I looked up to him.
Yeah.
You know, we'd always stayed friends over the years. But like I had my booth there, and like he came around like looking at the stuff, and it's like it was a surreal moment for me. Like I'm like, whoa, like this is nuts, you know. And then the first time we ever met was the first ever Joe Fest when I was like literally just starting the Action Force line. You're like, hey, I'd heard about your Action Force line. I'm like, whoa. And I told her, like, Kirk just came over to me and knew what Action Force was. So it's like it's moments like that I love those shows for. So, but it'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.